I'm Sue with Ava's Bridal Couture in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Today we're going to cover the top red flags to watch for as you're doing your research and interviewing other seamstresses and tailors. This is inspired as part 2 from Justina's questions when she's trying to figure out, as an Ava's bride, does she go to the local tailor in her immediate area, or does she want to make the drive to come to Ava's? Now, she happens to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so that's nice, but if you are out of state or out of town and you're trying to decide, oh, why isn't this lady closer to me? These tips are really going to help you in your state and city as well. Before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I do Wednesday videos on wedding dress shopping, bridal alterations, and bridal ownership. The first red flag I want you to pay attention to is personality. The 80-20 rule definitely exists in our industry, and as an employer of over 15 seamstresses in the course of my career, I have found that it is extremely difficult to find the lighthearted, positive thinker. This business is very relational, so it's not like going to a doctor's office or an attorney's office where saying less is more. It's all about storytelling and building that relationship. And some seamstresses have this idea that if I just unload all this stuff with my client, I'm going to build this connection, there's going to be this bond, and then on the back end, that relationship is going to serve me well when the desired end result is not there. On the front end, they tend to load you up in the first fitting with blaming the dress for your desired end results. For example, if your hem has horsehair trim or a specific kind of lace and your seamstress a little triggered like, ooh, I don't work with these types of laces, or they give me trouble, and I've noticed that in my experience, or if you are asking a lot of questions, too many questions, you may trigger your professional to think, uh-oh, I'm going to be speaking from a wound that I have from another bride who's reminding me of this one. And so I'm going to start loading her up on the front end to let her know that, well, if the dress was designed like this, if there was a French seam, then it would lay differently, but they used a lapped seam. So you see how they'll start to blame the manufacturing or the type of design or the way that it lays on your body, and which, by the way, is body shaming. And I've had to work through this here. It's just a personality thing. You know, when your cake is baked, you can't unbake it. If you're looking for a bride who was featured for this exact reason, I have Karina on my channel. She literally went off because she thought she was going to save hundreds of dollars by going to other seamstresses. She went to like 4 or 5 different places, and they were all telling her, well, the way it's designed or this and that, but she was going to the wrong places. She needed to go to a bridal specialist for the type of design that she had. But it was such a basic everyday thing. And so when she came back, she felt guilty almost telling me that she had been to so many places. But I can assure you that it is so good for you to feel like you got that out of your system. Otherwise you would have FOMO here. So one thing that she also verifies in that video for you is that they were all kind of telling her the same thing. And then she came here and it was like 1, 2, boom, done. She had her first fitting. Her final fitting was the second visit, and she was taking her dress home and getting married. And you can see in the video the end result. The second thing I want you to watch for is when they give you the cheapest, ugliest bustle that is literally hanging from a thread. It's like one point that all the weight of your fabric is like pulling down. It just looks like blah, and it's your reception dress. So when I'm quoting you what I was quoting you in the previous video, if you've missed it, I'll link it for you here, and I'll also put it in the description. But I'm quoting you what I would be proud to see you in as a moderate price point. I don't usually quote those lowball bustles because you don't like them, and they don't last, and they're not as attractive and flattering on your figure, but they're also not as helpful on the fabric pulling for all that weight. And I just find that hook and eyes are used when I'm doing like your cleanings or your preservation kits and stuff, and I'm taking your bustle down and kind of looking it over, and I'm like, oh my word, like, well, no wonder she saved all of this. If I would have put that bustle in, I definitely would have quoted a lot less. So a lot of times you've got to make sure that if you're paying what I'm quoting you, you need to make sure you get on the back end a quality bustle that's easy to find, that has all the markers so you can see it, but that will also be attractive. Well, plenty of brides don't invest into the bustle because it is not their priority. And so I'm not trying to tell you that you should spend those funds. I'm telling you that if you're going to spend those funds, you need to know what you're getting on the back end, because you could easily just come in and see it and then have the aha moment that I have. We don't want that. We want you to get apples to apples. The next thing I want you to think about is the type of environment that you're going to be in, the smells. All those foods that they bring to the store, you know, all of that your dress will absorb, but you're also going to think about being able to walk around and take your time in the business. Or is there going to be another bride standing next to you at all times so that you don't feel like you can really ask a lot of questions? You're going to be able to tell this in the first visit, but you can also see it in the reviews. If you have an analytical personality or you're more of a deep thinker, you're going to want to sit down and watch your videos and photos, and having a business that supports that gets it, that understands that that's actually a win for them and for you, to make sure that you're super happy with it. The next thing is being told no. This happens in our own team. Recently we just experienced this where one of my teammates told a bride no, no, she wouldn't do what she wanted to do because the two of them were not on the same page. The seamstress was like, I don't feel like I'm going to be able to make her happy. The type of questions that she was asking and the way that the meeting was going, I felt like I needed to just shut it down, offer what I thought would be a good solution. Well, the bride was like, she told me no, like, that's not Ava's Bridal. Like, you guys do all these transformations. I've seen you do the exact thing that I'm wanting. She reached out to me to be like, hey, so what's the deal? I took a meeting with her and we walked around and I realized I will do this for you. Totally got it. The reason that she's saying no is that she needs to charge a whole different tier of pricing. And in talking to the seamstress on our team, she didn't feel comfortable having to raise the price to fit the desired end result. She felt like with where the meeting was going, the best thing would be to just end it, wrap it up, and maybe come back to it later. Well, before that could even happen, the bride had reached out to me, which I was so grateful for, because there are times, even here, where the two of you just aren't gelling. I have plenty of brides that will meet with me and they're just like, she's not my cup of tea, but they love someone else on my team, and we're all so different in the way that we do things. So we meet, and I was able to explain to her, listen, the reason that you're being told no on this is because it's not a basic alteration. It's more of a custom alteration, and you're talking about a different tier of pricing. So if you're comfortable with that, I'd love to crunch some numbers with you, but I want to make sure that you understand what you're investing in and what you're asking for. So I put the numbers out there for her, and it was double, triple what the basic alteration would have cost. It was a very detailed, involved request. And so she was more than happy to pay for it. In fact, it was less than what she was expecting to have to spend. And so signed, sealed, delivered. But if the seamstress is like, if the meeting is going in one direction and the seamstress is just feeling like this is going to get confrontational, or I don't feel like I'm able to do this today because of everything else that I have, it's not on them as a negative. It just isn't going to happen in that meeting. It's all based on personality. Some seamstresses are not confrontational. Some are. They don't mind slapping you around and telling you need to spend more, and they're very direct. And then others really are just peacemakers. They're non-confrontational, and it's just not in them. And so for us to try to make them something they're not, that's not the way to go. But I do think that seamstress was able to see me handle the situation differently, and they do pick up on things from watching their teammates have successful experiences. But a lot of times we're coming from a previous wound. We don't want you to have a bad experience. We want you to have a good one. Next is the seamstress who wants to vent her personal matters to you. This kind of ties into one of the others where this is a relational business and storytelling is so huge. If at all possible, I like to get the seamstress not talking about themselves and all their wounds and all their woes, and let the bride tell stories. Like you guys, especially in alterations, it's the end of your planning period. Some of you have waited to the last minute because that was your plan, or your dress just came in, or you didn't have another choice, lots of reasons, right? And at the very end, 30, 60, 90 days, you are so stressed. Your nervous system is so triggered, and the last thing you need is for a professional that you have hired, that you are paying great money to just dump all their nervous system to you. You need someone who is lighthearted, very talented, but knows how to read the room. They understand brides. They understand that 60, 30, 90 days, they don't need all this stuff weighing them down. They need someone to be like, hey, how are you doing? Okay, well and lifting them up, like you don't have to just tell them how skinny, sexy, pretty they are. You can also give them authentic, real advice to say, hey, what you're feeling is completely natural, and here's why. So when you find yourself doing that, here's what I found is successful. Just giving them little tips like that. They might not take your advice, but being very lighthearted, uplifting, and allowing them to tell their stories, not dumping your morning on them and how you got a speeding ticket and how your family is going through all the holiday dynamics. They don't need all of that. Brides need authentic, genuine people who will lift them up and care for them, give them ideas, show them how to do stuff, answer their questions, and let them know what is completely natural and what is kind of off the bat. They love it when you tell it to them straight, as long as you have like a kind tone in your voice, and you also have like a perspective of care, and you're showing them like, this is going on, but this is how you resolve it. Why are there so many noises? This is what it's like recording videos in the front. There's like noises happening everywhere. Yeah, it's good. Thank you so much for taking the time to go through this with me, and I don't want to overwhelm you with too much reality. So I'm going to ask you to pay attention to the alterations guide that I'm going to send you free in your inbox when you pay your deposit for the appointment. Now, your deposit that holds your spot goes directly to your bill, so it is yours, but you will want to pay attention to that email. That email is designed specifically for brides who want to reduce the number of visits to the store and save with fuel and time. Demanding schedules. It is so hard to find a time and day that works for you, especially as you get closer to the wedding. And detail-oriented, analytical brides who really process the information, and they do want to have some time and not be like having the red carpet thrown out from under them. If you wish that I lived closer to you, you can enroll in my course. So much of what I have learned and have shared has to do with brides everywhere that have enrolled and have shown me that what I experience as an employer here and a stylist and seamstress is very common in the marketplace. Enroll in my course if you would like to work with me. It is the most cost-effective, fun, fast way that you can enjoy this beautiful space that we've created online. Or come to the store and bring your dress in. We can also shop for your dress and you can become an Ava's bride. I personally get to work with you when you purchase your dress with us, and I will be leading you through this whole process start to finish. I'll see you in the next video.